Other news now, and this year has been a big year for technology. It just seems to get bigger every year. It's delivered transformational new devices, others that were a little bit more explosive, and there's plenty of reasons to be more careful online. Futurist, author, inventor and engineer Mark Pesce is with me to discuss the highs and lows of the year. Mark, always great to see you.
Good to see you, Kumi.
Let's start with security, one of those issues that everyone talks about. Devices increasingly compromised, weaponized. Now they can be used to attack people.
So there is this entire generation of web cameras that you might stick up around the house so you could tell whether there are intruders coming in, but it turns out that all of these shipped with default passwords, like a password that might be password or user. And people wrote code that would just search the entire internet, find that device, and if that device was there and it had the default password, and probably you couldn't even change it if you wanted to, it would take that device over, basically just get in there, become the user, and because that device is a computer in its own right, it could then use that as a computer to attack the infrastructure in the internet. And we had this massive outage in America at the end of September that turns out was 100,000 of these web cameras from all around the world that had been used to attack critical internet infrastructure in the US.
So does that say that as consumers we just blindly assume that things that we buy are self-contained, are safe, and we sort of know the security thing's there, but we don't really believe it'll happen to us?
Well, in some ways, it's probably not the consumer's job to make sure that everything is locked down. It's the designer's job, and it's also the designer's job to make sure that when they make a decision about how secure something is, they err on the side of security. It's kind of like building a car and forgetting to put keys and locks on the doors. Well, someone's going to steal it. If I give you a car that didn't have locks and someone stole it, would that be your fault? It would be my fault as the car designer. So in some ways, we have to encourage people to buy the devices that have security, but you can't, as a consumer, know in advance. And so we also need to maybe have something like choice or consumer reports to help us guide into the right devices that have security in them.
How much of that then comes down to brand and brand loyalty? You might think, well, this kind of brand is secure, I trust them. Let's then segue straight into Samsung. How much has that brand taken a hit? You know, we spoke so much about the exploding phones, but you haven't sort of spoken about, you know, why that actually happened. Why can a phone and a battery explode in 2016?
So the forensic analysis, and I'd been hearing this for a while, but the forensic analysis that came out a few months ago was simply that Samsung was trying to move faster than they safely could.
Right.
The Note 7, which was the exploding phone, had many new features in it, and normally there's a pipeline. They'll add 1 or 2 new features per generation of a phone. Apple does this, Samsung does this, Google does this, and Samsung put a whole bunch of new innovations in by themselves. Each of them were safe. Together, no. Together, what they did was they created a situation where it basically created a power combination that could make the phone explode. And this is the reason why even after they took them back, they fixed the batteries and sent them out again, they continued to explode because the problem was systemic. It wasn't one thing.
So then you've got people designing all these amazing gadgets and things for the new phone, but not necessarily looking at, in combination, what effect is that going to have?
Yeah, and it's cumulative. And when you try to push the needle faster than all of the testing that you have and all of your procedures, when you try to push that, you're pushing yourself into the red zone, and you push yourself into the red zone, the engine can explode.
Mark, I'd love to tap your brains about what you think about virtual reality. I bought a new phone the other day, and with it I could have bought a virtual reality headset. I said no, because I'm like, what would I need that for?
Right.
Is this going to be something like the Blu-ray that's around for a year and then doesn't exist anymore?
The answer is probably not, but the virtual reality has a lot of different applications, and it turns out that some of the more commercial applications, less entertainment-oriented applications, are going to be quite useful. So if you could use that for business visualization, so you could actually take a look at big data and actually take a look at data in a way that you could absorb it hundreds of times faster because it's being presented in a way that feels very natural to you. All right. So in fact, VR may be more of the spreadsheet of the 21st century than the movie screen. I think it will be that. It will have a role in entertainment. But I think in the era of big data, what we're actually seeing is that it's a powerful tool. But the other thing that we saw let's remember July when Pokemon Go came out, and all of a sudden everyone in Sydney, everyone on the train was just playing Pokemon Go for about a month.
Yeah.
And it was because, again, and this is on the spectrum, it's augmented reality where you mix the real world and the virtual world together. It created a magic. And I think that's only the first instance of that, and other people will come up with other types of magic of mixing the real world and the virtual world.
So we're really only then in the infancy of what VR and what we can even contemplate that it might do for us and with us.
Yeah, it's very, very baby steps. We've really just probably gone about 0.1% of what's possible over the next few years. And what we'll see very soon is what we call mixed reality, where we're actually going to be able to take the world, and you won't have to sort of completely envelop yourself, but you'll see the real world and the virtual mixed together, almost like a hallucination, but hopefully something that's a lot more fun than that. And so you can have this, you don't have to go away from the world, you can actually have the world and add more meaning to it.
Very interesting, Mark. Always great to catch up with you. Have a great holiday.
You too.
Chat to you next year when we're all wearing VR headsets. See you soon.